guys, it's Elise. Welcome back to My Cupcake Addiction. Today we're going to be making Snickers Cake Pops. So take one of my favorite candy bars, combine it with one of my other favorite candy treats, and you've got Snickers Cake Pops. The things that you'll need today, I've got some Snickers bars. I've also got some little tiny gorgeous little printable Snickers bar logos. So these are just to kind of add a little bit of oomph to our cake pop sticks. You're going to need a rolling pin. I've got a fondant roller, but any rolling pin will do. Some cake pop mix. Now, cake pop mix is a combination of either frosting or ganache and crumbled cake. I've got a great recipe for this on my channel, which I will link to down below if you don't have a cake pop mix that you love. I've got some unsalted peanuts, a Ziploc bag, and melted chocolate. You can either use dark or milk here. They're both going to go pretty much the same, but dark's a little bit easier to melt. I've also got a knife and a baking tray just lined with a little bit of baking paper. So the first thing you want to do is you want to chop up some of your Snickers bar. This is where I can never ever contain myself, and I always end up eating more than I stick into my cake pops, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Once you've got it all chopped, just use your fingers and just kind of squidge it down a little bit so it's a little bit more of a rounded shape. And then we're going to take some of our cake pop mix. You're going to pinch off a piece. So just sort of give it a little bit of a press out in your hands, and then you want to take your little ball of Snickers and wrap it inside. So you're kind of making a slightly smaller amount of cake pop mix because you've got to allow room for that Snickers bar to sit on the inside. I'm shoving it in and applying quite a bit of pressure because I don't want any kind of air or air pockets in between the actual Snickers bar and the little layer of cake, and then just rolling it between my hands to get it as round as I can. Only we know the hidden surprise that lies in this rather unassuming looking cake pop ball. Now you want to take one of your lollipop sticks, dip it into your melted chocolate. This is so that your cake pop doesn't fall off the stick. And then you want to drive it into the base. You're going to have to push fairly hard here because you are going to have to try and get into that Snickers in the middle, but you want to make sure you get inside it. And then we can set that. Before you set it, because you've had to push it, you're going to have some little fingerprints. So just use your hands just to sort of round it off as best as you can. But don't go too crazy because we're going to have nuts and chocolate and everything on top of this, so it doesn't have to be a perfectly round cake pop. Lovely. This little guy is going on my tray, and I'm going to pop him off into the fridge to set. When you're putting them on the tray, this is kind of your chance to make sure that all of your lollipop sticks are standing up straight. If they're kind of tilting off to an angle, then when you put all of these in any kind of cake pop holder, they're kind of going to be all wonky. So try and get them all as straight as you can. So mine are all ready to go. I'm going to go and pop them off into the fridge for 15 minutes until those little seals are completely set. While those ones are offsetting in the fridge, I'm going to tip my nuts into a Ziploc bag and just crush them with my rolling pin. Now you can use crushed nuts, but I kind of want bigger, chunkier pieces of nut for mine. That's just my personal preference because I'm making it Snickersy and they've got quite big nuts in them. But if you've got a bag of crushed nuts, that'll save you a step. Whenever I make something like this that's got nuts on the inside, because nuts are a big allergy factor for some people, I always like to make sure that there's some kind of nut in the decoration. So anyone that's looking at them at a party or at a bake sale knows immediately they've got nuts inside. Kind of a safety precaution. Perfect, I'm pretty happy with that grade of nut. I've got kind of some nice little pieces, and then I've got some nice big chunky pieces, and those ones are going to be ready when we dip our cake pops. Now because you've melted that chocolate earlier, then you're allowing your cake pops some time to set. You might just need to give it a quick zing in the microwave just to make sure that your chocolate's as melted and as fluid as it can possibly be. Coming back from the fridge, your cake pops should be set, but you don't want them frozen solid or set too firm, so just give them that 15 minutes or so. The colder the cake pop, the warmer the chocolate, the more chance you've got of your cake pop cracking. So now to dip my cake pop, the one thing you want to remember is you definitely want your chocolate to come and cover that little set chocolate seal that you've got there. And it's best if you've got like a nice tall container for dipping. Give it a little swirl around. I like to kind of just dip it a couple of times because it gets rid of any excess chocolate. The chocolate in the cup actually drags off a lot of that excess chocolate, which means there's less tapping. And then I'm going to tap my wrist here, not my hand. If you tap your hand, you're actually putting a lot of pressure on the cake pop and they can tend to fall off. Just tapping the wrist to get rid of any excess. Lovely. Now before that one starts to set, and you'll notice it's got a little bit of a flat top because we had to push so hard to get those lollipop sticks in. So I'm going to get some of my nuts on top, and I want a good combination between the nice little nuts and some of those kind of larger ones. You can do as many or as few nuts as you like here, but have a little dig around because I kind of like some of those little fine sprinkly ones and then some of those big chunky ones. And I'm going to set mine just over here. This is like a little polystyrene or foam stand. It's actually designed for cake pops, but you can set it just in a little cup of rice or something like that if you'd prefer. Our little pops are all set. They're nice and firm. We've got no cracks because that temperature ratio between the chocolate and the cake pop was perfect. Now, because the Snickers colours are blue and red, I decided I wanted to alternate some blue and red little lengths of ribbon. You don't have to, it just adds a little bit of a nice touch. So I'm just going to tie a little bow around the neck, kind of like a bow tie for our little Snickers guy. And then I'm going to use a little bit of sticky tape just to attach one of those Snickers labels. Perfect, there's your little ribbon. Now to attach your little Snickers label, you just want one piece of sticky tape, and I find the best way to do this is to stick the sticky tape first onto the back of the cake pop stick, and I'm going to run mine lengthways because that's how I want my little Snickers label to go. Nice and straight, and then just using my fingernails, I'm kind of going to wrap it around so it's almost touching at the front, and then laying him on his back. Make sure that all of your little Snickers labels are going the same way. Lay that little label on there. And then you can just affix the sticky tape on the back. It's kind of like the most coordinated way to do it because while you're holding the cake pop and the little label and the sticky tape, almost feels like you need an extra hand. So that's it. That's how you make one of my favorite candy bars in cake pop form. If you guys have got a favorite candy bar that you'd like to see me cake pop next, let me know in the comments down below. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you do if you want to see more from me. And as always, thanks very much for watching.